So tomorrow we have a test. Your last test of the school year will cover lessons 8-1, 8-2, 8-3, 8-4, and 8-6. I'm going to be giving you back your quiz today. You can use it to review. Many of the questions look similar to the questions on the quiz. So once I give it back to you, if you have questions, you can ask me. The two new lessons that were added that were not on the quiz were lessons 8-4 and 8-6. And as we get to the study guides, I'll talk more in depth about those. So again, the test tomorrow is multiple choice. There are 15 questions. So make sure you read through each choice carefully. Some of the options are going to be tricky. You need to look for the little details. So on the quiz tomorrow, the test, I know you had a question like this first page of 8-1 study guide. I am not going to give you a question again with a table and ask you if it's quadratic. But remember, when you did that, you were looking for a pattern. So no questions like this one from the first page, where you have to determine if the differences make it quadratic. You will have questions where you will have to state the domain and the range. You will also, so you'll have to give domain and range from this lesson. You're also going to get questions where I'm going to ask you, is the equation quadratic? Now, on the quiz, I gave you credit for some answers that will probably be wrong on the test. Okay, if your equation is not in standard form, know that if you can do it yourself, that is the answer. So if I give you a question like I gave you on the quiz, and on the quiz the question was something like 15x squared equals 5, okay? And it's going to say, is this quadratic? You will say, yes, this is quadratic, because you can rearrange it into standard form. Don't tell me you can't. Don't tell me it's not quadratic because it's not in standard form. That is not a good answer. The answer is it can be put in standard form, so yes, it's quadratic. Okay, an answer choice where it says, yes, it's quadratic because it's got an x squared term isn't enough information. You would have had to say the highest degree is a 2, making it quadratic. But just because it has an x squared term doesn't necessarily make it quadratic. Because if it has an x to the 3rd power, then it would be cubic. So know that even though your question may not be in standard form, just like it was on the quiz, you can rearrange it and put it in standard form, and then it would be quadratic. So be careful on questions like that. And know you're going to get domain and range questions. On the quiz, there were still people that got domain wrong, okay? And I made everybody repeat after me. What is the domain of all quadratic functions? All real numbers. There were people that got it wrong, okay? It never fails. I make everyone repeat after me. The domain is always all real numbers. Look for an answer choice that has that, and then from there, narrow down your range. Okay, remember the range is the y, and if it's a minimum, like this one, you know the symbol is going to be greater than or equal to in the range. If it's a maximum like this, you know the symbol will be less than or equal to. So here's 3 questions that you can practice finding domain and range, and then the answers are in the study guide on the last page. Then from 8-2, this is where we learned how to find the axis of symmetry. We also talked about the graph opening upward or downward. You're going to have to do that. Remember that when you're given an equation, the x squared term determines if it opens upward or downward. In addition to finding the axis of symmetry, you're also going to have to find the vertex and tell me if that vertex is a minimum or a maximum. So what I recommend you do is go back and also look at the homeworks. Okay, the homeworks look more like the test. So from a graph, be able to find the axis of symmetry, be able to find the vertex, be able to find the zeros, and be able to tell if it opens upward or downward. And you're also going to have to find all of these things when you're given the function, the equation, not just necessarily a picture. So be able to identify all of these things, whether it's from a graph or from the equation. We're going to have to find the zeros of the graph. Yes?
When it's upward, it's when the graph is the shape of the U, right?
Yes. And when it's downward, it's upside down. It's like an upside down U. Okay? Remember to find the axis of symmetry. We're using this formula, negative b over 2a. This will give you the axis of symmetry. And then after you get the axis of symmetry, if it asks for the vertex, then you plug it in to get the y. Okay, in the study guide, it's walking you through step by step. There were good examples also in the homework. So that was 8.2. 8.3, this is where we learned an additional technique for graphing. Now, if you want to use this technique to graph, you can. Know that it's a multiple choice test, so you're just going to be looking for the graph that matches the equation. So you can either make a table or you can use the techniques learned in 8.3. There will not be any word problems on the test. So I know in this lesson we also saw some word problems. So technically, if you don't use the technique taught in 8.3, there really isn't any questions from 8.3. Then from 8.4, this is where we saw the comparisons of the graph. Okay, you're going to have to compare them. Make sure that you are reading through all the options and looking for the comparison of the width, the comparison of the axis of symmetry, the comparison of the vertex, and whether it was translated up or down. So good thing to go back and review is 8.4's homework. Also in this lesson, we talked about the width. You're going to have to order the graphs from narrowest to widest. Remember, if you just take the number in front of x squared and put it greatest to least, then your graphs are already in order from narrowest to widest. But remember, you're taking the absolute value of the number. You need to know from 8.4, be able to compare the graphs, compare it to the parent, and then also order from narrowest to widest. Then the axis of symmetry in 8.6, when you're doing the homework we just reviewed. Now, notice the answers here for the comparisons on the last page of 8.4's answers. Read through them, because this is how you're going to see your answer choices on the test. For example, when 8.6 was the factoring lesson, you're actually 1/3 of the test is going to be 8.6. There are going to be questions where it's already factored for you, and all you need to do is set each one of the binomials equal to 0 and solve. And the other 4 questions are all going to be trinomials that you must factor first and then set the equation equal to 0, or each binomial equal to 0 to find the 2 values of x. Another little tricky thing to watch. So that is your quiz, your test. Again, multiple choice, 15 questions. Make sure you look for the details. Make sure you are reading through each answer choice. Axis of symmetry always. Okay, it's the line of symmetry, right? So it's an equation. I'm going to warn you now, on your options, A, B, C, and D, let's say they have answer choice A is x equals 1. Answer choice B might be y equals 1. Remember, the axis of symmetry is the x equals. So if you see some that have y's, get rid of them. Okay? That's a little hint for the test for tomorrow. Yes?
When you have a graph and you have like the vertex, the x of the vertex
Correct. And then just put x equals.
Okay.
Yes, perfect. Or you can find the zeros, add them, and divide by 2.
Okay.
Okay? The easiest way would probably just be to find the vertex, and it's the x of the vertex.